Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I am talking with Christopher Yates, author of The Rabbit Club. Hi, thank you so much for doing this.
Hi, Reagan. Thank you for inviting me and picking my little novel
Oh my
for
God,
your
of
book.
course. It was like I saw like English town, like English city, college, and I was like, this is perfect for me. I love this. And then it's also
Hmm.
more like gothic kind of. So I loved it. It's right up my alley. But I will let you go ahead and do you want to tell everyone what the book is about?
Sure. So the Rabbit Club is about this California dreamer whose name is Alistair McCain. He goes by Ali, and he heads to Oxford to study English literature. Um, Part of the reason is he wants to reconnect with his father, who's a world famous British rock star called Jerry McCain. But part of it is he just wants to kind of go to Oxford and hang out with the kind of people who go to Oxford. So he turns up there and he pursues this mysterious kind of dining society, this secret club called the Saracens. But once he starts trying to get in, he realizes that membership might come at too high a price.
Oh my God, I love it. I love secret society, anything.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
was like, this is the perfect book. It's also like a nice, like we're going into fall. So it's a nice, like fall kind of book. I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
Back to school kind of back
exactly.
to
It's
school
a
reading.
great,
Yeah.
I mean, you're watching an 18-year-old go right into his first year of college. So it is a
Yeah.
perfect back to school book.
Hmm.
But as I said, I love like dark academia, secret societies, like that theme so much. It's so amazing. And I also just love how you wrote about England in general. I love England so much. And I felt like I could really picture every scene. It was so well
Right.
written. I to give compliments over here. It was so well written. I felt like I could see it like playing out, which I love because I'm such a like visual person and I love to read things that have more of a like cinematic kind of feel. And I felt like I got that from this book.
I agree. And yeah, thank you for the compliments.
Of course. My first question, jumping right in, is
Hmm.
Ali, like you said, is a Californian with a very famous British rock star father that he never really knew. How did you approach writing a character that is so different from your own, unless you have a secret famous rock star father? Um, unless
I do not have
that
a
is
secret.
your past.
Yeah. Yeah, unless my mother never told me something that she should have told me. Um, so it's interesting because although he's Californian and he shares a lot in common with me because I actually turned up at Oxford and none of my extended family had ever even been to college.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, I was the first person from my family to go to college. And therefore, when I turned up at Oxford, I knew nothing about Oxford. I knew nothing about the university. I knew nothing about universities. So I was really naive when I turned up. Um, so I do share that with Ali. So lots of his observations of kind of, oh, this is a bit strange about Oxford University were really my experiences going there. Um, but yes, I didn't have a famous rock star father. My dad worked for the post office, which is a bit slightly different.
Yeah.
Um, I just it I'd actually been trying to write a novel about a punk band and it didn't really work out. But I love music so much I knew I wanted to write about music. And as I started writing the first chapter, it just jumped into my head like, what if he has a rock star father who he's never really met because he leaves when Ali's 18 months old? Wouldn't it be really strange if your dad was really famous but you had no physical memories of him? So, Ali can watch him on talk shows, he can listen to all of his music, he can read books about him, which he does, and discovers some stuff he doesn't really want to know. Um, but he doesn't have any memories of him. So I just thought it was a really nice idea for him to go and try and find his father and discover also the life he would have lived if his father hadn't left him, because Ali would have grown up in the UK as an English person.
Yeah. No, I think like reading it from Ali's perspective and like seeing him talk about how there are people in the world who know more about his dad than he does. And
Yeah,
then him reference like even just with his like own internal dialogue, like reference an interview Jerry did or something was so fascinating to kind of see how like he knows as much about like as much as his dad is the rest of the world does, which was
yeah,
really fascinating to read.
yeah. And he finds out in reading one of these books, which is a bit he didn't want to find out, that he was actually an illegitimate child, which I thought would be a really weird experience to kind of like find stuff out about yourself from reading a book
Yeah.
about your father.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I can't even imagine that experience where like you're reading a book and then someone references you personally in it. You're like, oh, wait, that's me. Yeah.
That's me
That must be a
playing
surreal
the,
experience.
yeah.
Um, how you said that you obviously went to Oxford. You were born in London and went to Oxford, which is where Ali studied at. Was that similar or different, or did you like draw upon any personal stories from your time there?
So I did draw upon stories from my time there. You mentioned the secret societies that you're a fan of, and there really are secret societies at Oxford.
That's so cool.
Um, yeah, I remember being so lots of Oxford is set around quads, which are there are buildings on four sides. I remember being sitting on the grass in one of these quads, and a girl I knew saying that she had an invite to a secret society party.
That's so insane.
So yeah, and the group was called the Assassins. They're actually even more famous secret societies, particularly the Bullingdon Club, whose members included two recent prime ministers, Boris Johnson and David Cameron.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, so I remember this girl saying, "Hey, I got this weird invite to a party from a group called the Assassins." So as I think you'll remember, there's a scene where one of my characters gets an invite to, I called the secret society the Saracens, because I thought that sounded kind of close to assassins.
Yep.
Um, so I really did experience that, and I don't actually know if she went to the party or not. But I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter. You know, she told us this story and it's always really stuck with me. And I enjoyed finally turning it into a scene in my novel.
That's so cool. Now I want to know if she went. And
Yeah.
maybe you're not allowed to know because it is a secret society. Maybe it's
Okay.
like no one's allowed to know.
Yes.
Um, the Saracens are they, as you just said, they do kind of echo real life clubs and secret societies in general. What did you hope writing about the secret society? What did you hope the reader would kind of take away about privilege and power and just like belonging in general?
Yeah, that's a really good question because there is a lot about privilege in this novel. And I should probably say that it's set in 1994 when some of this privilege and inequality was probably even steeper than it is now. The differences between the haves and the have and have nots was even greater. And when I went to Oxford a few years earlier, the number of people who were privately educated was way higher than it is now. So I wanted to, I thought it might be fun to explore privilege through British privilege through the eyes of an American who isn't familiar with Britain or the class system in Britain, which is kind of subtle but still exists.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I really enjoyed exploring it through Ali's eyes.
Yeah, I mean he's reading it or you're reading it as Ali who has no idea about any of this, really. Like you're learning it as he's learning it, which
No,
is great for me because I didn't know much
yeah,
about the class system there or anything. So you're kind of learning along with the character, which is great. I love when I'm reading a book and that happens because like It's not like the re or the character is in on something that you're not. You're both learning together. It's great. It makes you feel like a part of the story as well.
Yeah. And then there are lots of weird traditions. Oh, yeah. So then there are lots of weird traditions in Oxford that Ali has to learn. And that was a fun way for me to kind of like explain it to the reader. There are this tutorial system we have, which is crazy, which is basically instead of having classes, um, two of you sit in a room with a professor who is normally like a world-class expert on the thing you're talking about, and you're 18 years old and you're meant to have a discussion with this professor who probably knows everything that's ever been said on the subject. And, it can reduce you to a kind of gibbering wreck.
Oh, it was I was reading like those scenes where Ali's like in the tutorial and I'm like, I could never do that. That sounds so stressful. Does
Yeah.
every UK university do that or is it just an Oxford specific thing?
It's Oxford. I know Oxford and Cambridge do it. I know
Mhm.
most universities don't. There may be a couple of others who have a similar system, but it's very intensive on kind of the number of staff you need to run that kind of system. So
Yeah.
it is unusual, but Oxford and Cambridge both have it and both still have it.
That's insane. That's so intimidating. I could never imagine because if I was in Ollie's shoes, I probably would go for like creative writing or English or something. And I could
Mhm.
never imagine like debating with a professor or something about the subject they're so knowledgeable in about something that I'm just now learning about. Like that's so terrifying. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I studied law, and in the very first term, so you can study law as an undergraduate in the UK, which I know you can't hear, but in the very first term, you have to study Roman law, like the whole system of Roman law as it was back thousands of years
Oh my
ago.
God.
And my professor of Roman law was literally the most famous professor in the world who'd written books about Roman law. And it was just, I mean, the great thing is he was lovely and amazing, but
Not like Ollie's
intimidatingly.
professor.
No, no, Ali's professor is well, his nickname is the Beast of Belsky, Ali's professor, right?
I loved that nickname. That really made me laugh.
Uh-huh. So he's called Anton Belsky, and his students call him the Beast of Belsky.
Oh my God, I love that. He's a great character. The first tutorial Ali had, I was so stressed out for Ali. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
how is this gonna go? I was so scared for him.
Yeah. And it doesn't go that well.
It doesn't. It doesn't. He survived somehow. Thank you, Victor.
Yeah.
But he survived somehow.
Yes.
There are a lot of just different references in your book. It's the 90s. There's so many great pop culture things that happen in the 90s. And I'm such a fangirl of so many things. So I loved all the references from literally Oasis to King Lear and to like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. How did that kind of shape the novel's like tone and theme?
Yeah, good question. So the very first sentence tells us that it's 1994 and that Kurt Cobain has recently died, which was a huge moment in 1994 that I still remember today. So right from the beginning, I kind of introduced the idea of an American dying, and we kind of keep heading in that direction. But also, it was the year Oasis released their first album.
Yep.
Um, so there was lots going on, and I actually end up, I used to, when I was at college, in fact, for many, many years, I used to make mixtapes because that's what
Oh my
we had
God.
back then. We had cassettes. And I made so many mixtapes. Anyway, in the spirit of making a mixtape, I made a list of music from 1994. And when I went back and looked at all of the music from 1994, it was an amazing year for music. It
Yeah.
was Blur, Oasis, Elastica, Manic Street Preachers, many of my favorite bands of all time were really up there. Oh, and Pulp were just emerging. Um,
When was
it,
Smashing Pumpkins? Because that was the 90s, right? Or was
it
that
was
early 90s?
definitely. Yeah, it was definitely the 90s, but with them being American, I was probably less familiar with.
Mm,
Smashing Pumpkins weren't as huge in the UK as Nirvana. I mean, Nirvana were just, I
yeah.
mean, for reason were just massive.
I mean, even now, like Nirvana is still like it's timeless. Like there's such a huge band, even still. It's crazy.
Hmm.
I loved the Oasis references. I'm such an Oasis lover. And so I was reading it and I was like, "Oh my God, I love this so much." It made me very happy. You kind of described your like writing process as almost like puzzle like.
Yes.
How did your background in puzzle editing and your love of like wordplay influence the like structure and twists in Rabbit Club? Because there are such amazing twists in this book that you'll have to read to know, but there's a lot and it's great.
Yeah, there's a pretty major twist, kind of probably like 85% of the way through the novel. And you've obviously done your research on me, knowing that I worked as a puzzle editor. So yeah, I did. When I finished university, so I was meant to, so I said I studied law. The whole plan for me in life was I was going to become a barrister, which are the guys in the courtrooms who wear the wigs. Um, like if you've seen this in movies and on TV.
Yeah.
So I was going to be a barrister, but I was in kind of two minds about it. I knew I wanted to write. I knew I wanted to do some other things as well. I just fell into this job, writing crossword clues for a computer database.
Wait, that's kind of fun. I kind
Yeah, it was
of love
fun.
I love the going from law to writing crossword puzzles. I love
I
that.
know. Yeah, I mean, it's a natural development, clearly. Uh, So then I fell into kind of like, I'd always loved puzzles, by the way, that it wasn't a completely left field move. So I ended up working in puzzles for about 10 years. And the way I think that influences my novels is I always set myself a puzzle at the beginning of my novels, and me
Mm.
trying to solve it is my writing process. So in this novel, which is split into two halves. There's 1994, and then there's 2018, which is not set in the UK at all. It's set in America and kind of a college, kind of like, say, Vassar or Bard, somewhere
Mm.
an hour's drive from New York. We've got this crazy professor who keeps receiving chunks of a story. And my puzzle was when I started writing this crazy professor, I didn't know who he was or how he was related to the story.
I was gonna ask
So
if you knew who the professor was gonna be. So you did so
no,
you
I didn't.
oh wow.
No, I kind of like doing that, just jumping into a character or a storyline and not knowing where it's going at all. Um,
So are you
and
an outliner
eventually,
then or no?
no, no.
Okay.
Have you heard the term pantser?
Yeah, so I'm not a pantser, I'm an outliner.
Uh-huh.
I think
And they're both good ways to do.
yeah. I
Sorry, carry on.
I was gonna say I just think like I need an outline to like I will go so off the rails and like won't stick to the main story. So I allow myself to adjust the outline, but like I need structure. I need a skeleton of a story to help me get by.
Yeah. Yeah. So whereas I've tried to be an outliner, and when I start outlining, my head just refuses to participate in the process. It's kind of like I'll be trying to write an outline, I'll be like step one, and then I'll be like, I wonder what I should have for dinner tonight. Oh, maybe I should go to the supermarket and buy some sausages. And then
And then it's completely
whatever I try to do, yeah, whatever I try to do, it's like some part of my brain refuses to engage.
wow. I
So
always
yeah,
so fascinated about writing process because it's always so different for everyone.
yeah. And I think you work out what works for you. So yeah, the puzzle I set myself was to work out who this crazy mad professor in Huntingham University, which was my fictional version of Vassar or Bard, who he was. And then the answer jumped into my head, and I was like, "Oh, no way, no way!" Um, but then I was like, "Oh, but if I could pull this off, it would be amazing." So I spent the whole novel seeing if I could pull it off, and I was really excited by everyone's reaction to the twist because I think no one's complete. The dangerous thing about writing twists is it's like being on a high wire,
Yep,
you
it's
know.
a balancing game.
Yeah. And if you fall off that wire, the novel is ruined.
Yeah. It's
But
also with twists, it's also you have to be careful because it's a gray area of like
mhm,
you don't want to hint too much that the
yeah,
reader guesses it really early, but then you
yes.
also don't want to like not hint at all so that it's entirely out of left field. Like you have to have this little like this little gray area where it's
Mm,
the perfect amount of like this could be it, but there's no way.
yeah.
And it's that gray area of like the high wire that you have to balance with a twist.
Yeah. And it's kind of like nailing the landing in gymnastics. You just want to do those somersaults and just nail that landing
Yep.
perfectly.
Yep. No, I love whenever I'm writing anything. And this doesn't happen as much because outlining, but I love
Mhm.
whenever I am writing something and I'm like, "Oh my God, wait. Oh my God." And it's just like this realization where like this is the twist. This is what happens. Like, and I get that when I'm outlining, not when I'm writing, unless I'm changing the
Oh,
outline.
okay.
But when I'm outlining it, I'll be like kind of like brainstorming story stuff.
Yeah,
And then it just kind of hits me. And it's that moment of like, it's a light bulb moment of like, this is what has to happen.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's about just being prepared to listen to your subconscious, that tiny little voice that kind of says, "Hey, how about if you did this?" And rather than going like, "I can't do that.
Yep.
Leave me alone." You have to kind of listen to it and go like, "Huh, what if I did do that?"
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but sometimes it does. And whenever it does, that's whenever it's like, listen to that little subconscious voice because most of the time it knows what it's talking about.
Yes, I found, I mean, I'm going to say like 99% of the time when I've listened to it, it knows what it's talking about.
Exactly. There's like been like one time where I was like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have listened to it. But
Right.
every time I feel like I go down that rabbit hole of listening to whatever little idea it said, it does prove to be right.
Yeah. You have to roll with it, as the Oasis song goes.
Exactly. I love the reference. Thank you for that. Speaking of Oasis and references and Easter eggs, um, you've talked about overlapping characters and Easter eggs between the Rabbit Club and Black Chalk. Are there any possible plans to expand this universe in the future, perchance? There is
There might be.
Alice in Wonderland, just saying.
Yeah, there might be some, that little voice in my head might be speaking to me about other things that could happen in the future. And the hard thing is, like I mentioned earlier, that I tried to write this novel about a punk band and then I scrapped it. So you can't ever promise anything until it's finished because you might change your mind. But just between you and me, I may have been working on the origin story of Anton Belsky. And I
Wait,
would
I love
love,
this.
yeah.
Wait,
So
that,
my editor asked me so
yeah.
many questions. Yeah. My editor asked me so many questions about Anton Belsky. And, when you get to the end, there's some unresolved issues. And I do intend to resolve those unresolved issues. And how Anton Belsky became Anton Belsky is a story I would really love to be able to tell. And I've written some of it, but so fingers crossed, it's not like the punk novel. And I go like, here's the thing with the punk novel. Like the thing I like to joke, it was a joke, a band about a punk no band, but I couldn't make the novel sing. So I had to abandon it. And hopefully this Anton Belsky novel might sing, and I'd love to, because my head kept telling me all this stuff about his background that I knew I couldn't fit
Yep.
into the Rabbit Club, but I was like, oh, I'd love to make this its own thing.
I had that experience with my book because the main character's roommate, like just even before I started writing, just developing the character, I knew like they were a very complicated character with a very like complex backstory, but obviously you can't fit this side character's whole life
Yeah,
into a book about a different character. And
yeah.
so having that like knowledge about the character, but then not being able to put it in the book, I was like, this has to go somewhere. But then also having that knowledge is fun because you can do little Easter eggs and little like things where like the character will say something and you're like, oh, there's more there. Like there's something else there. And so that's also fun to be able to do and to know like there's more behind the curtain that you aren't seeing yet.
Mhm. Yeah. And also, even if readers never see it, I feel like it comes across on the page if you know more about your character than you actually put into your book. Somehow it gets transmitted to the reader that I think it just makes you confident as a writer to like you want your characters to be alive in your head,
Yeah.
you know? So, and if they're alive in your head, then they'll probably seem alive on the page. And so even if you ever never use some of that stuff, it's so good to have it and to be able to just bring everything to life.
It was so fascinating because so my book is set in Brighton and
Mhm.
I went and visited recently and I went and visited friends and it was the first time that I had been to Brighton since I'd finished entirely like editing and everything. The story was done. And so I'd been
Mhm.
multiple times while editing, but or just while writing in general. But going after the book had been finished and like walking where my main character had been and like seeing the things that she sees is so weird and like it really brings them to life. Like walking in your character's shoes almost. And I was joking with my friends because I was like, this is a fictional character on a page that I made up but like I can literally see her sitting in this coffee shop right now. And it's such an
Yeah.
odd experience, but it was so cool. I loved it.
Yeah, I think part of the experience of being a writer is a bit like being a crazy person because, like, I hear voices in my head,
Yep.
and when my characters have conversations, I feel like I'm just listening in on them. I'm not like directing it myself.
Yep.
I'm just kind of spying on them and writing down everything they say,
It's
which
almost
is one definition of
ghost,
madness.
like a ghost listening from above, like they don't know you're there, but you're observing it.
Yeah,
It's fascinating.
it's a kind of like semi-spooky but miraculous thing to go through.
It's so weird.
So funny enough,
Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, funny enough, I went to Oxford before I'd actually written about a quarter of the novel, and I went to Oxford for my reunion. I'm not going to tell you how many years because it's too embarrassing. Um, I went there for my reunion, and the whole Alice in Wonderland stuff didn't really exist before I'd gone to Oxford. And I realized I'd forgotten to take any notebooks. So I went to a bookstore and I went to buy some notebooks. And there was a 3 pack of notebooks, all with Alice in Wonderland themes on them.
Oh
And
wow.
that's when it struck me that Alice in Wonderland was written by an Oxford professor. Sorry, it's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I keep saying Alice in Wonderland because so many people do. The writer was an Oxford professor, and he based it all. He went there as a student and never really left Oxford. So all of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is based on other professors he knew, various things,
Know
like the
that.
White Rabbit. And yeah, like the White Rabbit was the head of college who apparently was always rushing around looking at his pocket watch, going, "Oh no, I'm late, I'm late." Um,
Wait, that's so cool.
so I know, I suddenly realized kind of like I'd already had characters with a top hat in there. I already had a character who's like a duchess in there. I was like, wow, did I actually have I been doing this all along without realizing it? So I bought the notebooks and then introduced this whole Alice theme to the novel, which was really fun.
That's so crazy because you say that you wrote like a good amount of the book before you went to Oxford, but then like thinking back to just the beginning of the book, like there's already so many elements. Like just whenever like Allie is meeting like the his friend group and stuff. Like there's so many elements there that already relate to Alice in Wonderland, and you weren't even aware of it at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't at all. It was like, like you said, it was a light bulb moment. There are various light bulb moments in writing, and that was it. I stared down at the notebook and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this.
It fits so well. I loved it. The
Mm.
minute like you kind of start referencing Alice in Wonderland, just or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, like just in general, like I was like, wait, this is exactly like it makes so much sense. It connects so well. I loved it. It was great. But once again, I love the
Thank
references. That's the theme here. Is I'm just fangirling over references apparently.
you.
Um, one of this is more of a generic question. I'm sure you get this all the time, but what do you want readers to pick away from this story?
But see, I have been asked that before, and I always find it really hard because I like the idea that as a writer, once you finish writing the book, it doesn't belong to you anymore. I'm a really big one for that. So I hate it when writers describe their own book in too much detail. Like discussing it is obviously great, but if you kind of, I don't, I don't like it when writers say this is the right interpretation of what I have written. I really think once it goes out there into the world, then the it belongs to the readers, and their interpretations are what are important, and their experiences and feelings about the characters are what's important. So I think really all I want is for people to enjoy the setting, enjoy the characters, not guess the twist,
Yep.
and get to the end and go like, oh well, that was a wild ride.
I love that. That's how I am with music. Where like a song will be about some like a certain meaning that relates to the artist specifically. And I was having this conversation with a friend a while ago because we were listening to a song and I was like, "Oh, this part of this song is exactly like this thing." And my friend was like, "But that's not what the song is about." And I was like, "Well, that's what it's about to me because that's what I relate to in the song and that's what I pull from it. And that's my
Yeah,
own personal experience that I have with that song." And
yeah,
so I totally see where you're coming from with having a motto or whatever from a book is it depends on the person.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
never heard that
completely.
before. And now I'm like, that's so true though.
Yeah. And I think you should want that as an artist for people to take from your work what they want to take or what they need to take. And I don't want to impose anything on my readers.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like whenever of course there's different examples and stuff, but like whenever you're writing a book, it's more about just delivering the story, but not pushing one specific idea or
Yeah,
anything. And so I very much agree with that. Yeah.
fantastic.
um, what advice, as someone who has just finished writing their first book, what advice would you give to writers or people who want to start writing?
Um, so listen to your subconscious, as I mentioned, maybe trust your subconscious. I mean, plan it if you're a planner.
Yep.
I think it's really, there is no, my main advice would be there is no correct way to write a story. And you can look up, lots of people will give you like writing rules. And whenever I see writers and their writing rules, I always think, kind of like, can we just not call them rules?
Yeah.
Because if you call them rules, people think they have to do that. And one of the most fun things about writing is to be able to break the rules. So it's worth reading how other writers write, just because something might click with you. You might go like, oh, I think that will really work for me. But if you ever read a writer's rules, just please don't ever think it's a rule. It's a writer's rule basically means this is how I write and this is what works for me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's an
that would be my
opinion,
main
not like a
advice.
rule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's an opinion or a technique, you know. But sometimes opposite techniques work for different writers.
Yeah.
So yeah, make your own rules is my piece of advice.
That's a great that's a great quote just in general. Is like make your own rules. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, in many aspects of life, not just writing.
Yeah. That that is our motto from today is make your own rules. Um,
Nice.
I love it. Now, my final question for you is one of my favorites. It's kind of the one I ask every time, and it's book related, but it's what are you currently reading right now? This is how I'm biased and I get book recommendations.
Ah, that is a good question. I just finished Intermezzo by Sally Rooney.
Oh my God, I've
Um,
been wanting to read that.
oh
Obviously
yeah,
seen so much about it. Is it amazing, like I've heard?
it's my favorite of her four novels, and I've read all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you read any of her other novels?
I haven't. I've only heard everything about like all the buzz around Intermezzo, and I haven't read it, but obviously seen it and been meaning to read it.
So all of her novels are incredible. I mean, she's an incredible writer, especially when it comes to her characters have such rich interiority. You feel like you're really getting inside of all of her characters, which is an incredible
That's cool. That's
experience. Yeah.
I love it.
So, and you certainly don't have to read them in any kind of order at all. So yeah, I just finished Intermezzo, which was amazing. Um, and I just finished another book, which I really enjoyed. Um, Actually, I have it here.
I'm so glad you liked it. Oh my God, but that was such a jump scare. I was not expecting that. I was like,
I
oh
wasn't
my
sure when
God,
I
is it?
wasn't sure when I was going to bring it up, but then when you asked me what I've just been reading,
I'm glad
um,
you enjoyed it. That was I was like, oh my God, what book is it? And then I saw that and it was such a jump scare.
so this book is fantastic. You should be incredibly proud of this.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. Um, and would you mind if I just turned the tables a little bit and asked you some questions about,
Go for
like,
it.
you see, I've got post-it notes in here because I was making notes. Uh,
God. Oh, you do you I'm forgetting what it's called. Whenever you like write in the books and like make like I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. But there were like particular reasons. Oh, this one says the head of one of your chapters is the setting is its own character, and I just wrote so true.
Yeah,
Um,
so that I very much agree where a setting can be, I mean, even in your book, Oxford is such
yeah,
a character, so I 100% agree.
yeah, and Brighton is a character. So I was having to like bite my lip when you were talking about having gone to Brighton because I was like, oh, I was going to ask you whether you went to Brighton
Yeah,
to do
that's
research for it.
where
And
I'm moving there.
oh,
So
really?
I it's I feel like it's very similar how I was saying that I'm a San Diego kid. It is that like coastal town marine layer city that I love, and it does feel very similar to like a San Diego in the UK kind of vibe. And I have a lot of friends there and I just love it there.
Are you going to study there like your main character does, or are you
I
just going
might.
there to?
It depends honestly on the visa situation. If that's what I have to
Yeah.
do, I'll do it. A lot of my friends go to Brighton University, and that's where if I went to college or university there, that's where I would go.
Yeah, it was such a good setting in your book that I've only been to Brighton a couple of times, even though I grew up probably only an hour's drive away. I probably went two or three times. But anyway, I do have some questions for you. But first of all, did you notice like lots of similarities in our two novels?
I
And
know
they share many, many, many things in common.
I think the things that I noticed the most probably had to do with like setting similarities because obviously like they're both in England. And so just like things that like surrounding setting wise, I noticed. And then probably like the friend group as well, like the very like close-knit
Yeah.
friend group kind of was very similar to me. What did you notice? Now I'm nosy about what you
That,
noticed.
Good point. So that's a good point. I didn't write down the friend group. Okay, I've written this down. Um, okay, so first of all, both novels are about college-age people who are Americans traveling to the UK for college. They
That's
both
so true.
open. They
Yeah.
both open with an American, like in your case, getting ready to travel to the UK, and in my case, like actually traveling to the UK. And in both cases, they're going there because of a parent.
Wait,
Yeah,
this is so
right?
insane.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't even
But
think
it,
about
that's,
that.
I know, right? So I was reading this. That's also why I made so many notes. Okay. So also, both of them mention or involve. I need to take a deep breath because it's a long list. Okay. Oasis, language differences between Brits and Americans, Jane Austen's Emma and Pride and Prejudice, Virginia Woolf's Orlando, Great Expectations by Dickens, someone who wants to be a doctor because of the death of a parent,
Yep. I did.
White
I was
Rabbit,
in yours. I did notice that, and I picked that up. I was like, oh my God, wait, like that's similar.
uh, White Rabbit, which is a cafe in your novel
Yep.
and a character in my novel, the Queen of Hearts catchphrase off with their head, characters who wear top hats, Greek tragedy plays,
Yep.
significant changes near the end, and last but not least, Americans who fall in love with British girls.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's such an American thing where it's like loving like a British accent. And I was like, well, like obviously if my American character is going overseas, she has to fall in love with the Brit.
It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I actually had even more like some really tiny picky own ones that I didn't write down because I was like, I'll just be going on forever if I list absolutely everything. Um, so oh, and also I guess I have my American falling in love with a British character because I'm married to an American. So I actually have a kind of like transatlantic relationship.
Wait, I love that. That's so funny that your partner is American, basically
American.
experiencing. That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
and we met in London, so I ended up in New York because she got a job here. And anyway, that doesn't matter. Do you mind if I ask you some questions about your novel? Okay. Oh, I wondered if you have any British relatives.
Don't, sadly, because that would make me getting a visa a lot easier. Um, I don't,
Oh,
but I have an amazing friend group there.
yeah,
Um, that's like mostly southern England, like anywhere between like London and Brighton, like around that area. That I would say is like family, but no blood relatives.
right. Because your main character, Avery's mother, is British in your novel. So that
It's
made me
funny
wonder that.
because that actually Hallie being British wasn't like an immediate thing to me.
Oh yeah.
But like it wasn't a later on addition, but it was like it took a second for me to realize like, oh, this is why Hallie went to Brighton at all, is because it's where she grew up.
Yeah, and that works really well. I mean, I I really loved that thread, and and the way it was kind of similar to my novel where Ali has a British father.
Yep.
Um, okay, so your main character Avery explains to us, the reader, uh, that they predict the plots of romance movies at least two scenes ahead. Is that something you do?
Yeah. I especially now after writing a rom-com because I did so much research on just any rom-com I've read. Like there is not a rom-com novel that you could give me that I haven't read. I kid you not. I go into bookstores and I test myself. I'm like, is there a rom-com here I haven't read? It is very rare. But because of that, and because I
Hmm.
watched so many, especially rom-coms set in England, which there are so many. I watched Love Actually, Notting
Yeah,
Hill, The Holiday, and because of that, I now know the structure of rom-coms so well
yeah.
that I'm like, oh, this is probably what's gonna happen. And now my friends hate watching movies with me because I predict stuff. And they're like, you can't talk anymore during movies.
Yeah. So there's a romance element in my novel. Did you predict where it was going?
No,
Did you guess where it was going?
I did not. The twist with that whole thing, I was shocked. That was very surprising to me. I feel like I didn't predict it probably because it was like it's not like a rom-com twist, where it's more fitting in your book than like what would be like a rom-com.
Yeah,
And so I didn't
yeah.
predict it, but I did read it and I was like, oh my God. It was crazy, but it was great.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, I've got a couple more. Oh, so do you mind if I get like a little bit geeky about descriptive
And of course.
language in novels?
Yes. My
So there, there is a brilliantly written scene in your novel which is set at an Oasis concert, um,
Yep.
which is like a fake Oasis band. And honestly, the writing is fantastic in there. There was I made so many notes. Like there's metaphor, alliteration, consonants, assonance, and probably even more than that. And so the scene is set at a place where music is about to be played and then is played. And when I read it, the sound of the words made me hear the music. So I picked out one line in particular. Then the guitarist wrapped in shadows, which is a great metaphor. The guitarist wrapped in shadows at the back of the stage started strumming. So here's the interesting thing. You end that sentence with three words beginning ST. So it's stage started strumming. So it's almost like you hear this like um, and also like the vowels in that stage, short vowel, started, longer vowel, strumming, longest vowel. So it's like music, a musical beat, and then music opening up. And my
Yeah.
question for you is, did you know you were doing that?
I'm a really big music person and I love going to concerts or gigs or just like any form of music. I will go listen to like instrumentals. I'll go listen to orchestras, like rock bands, anything. I love music. I listen to every kind of music. Um, and so I really wanted to deliver how I feel whenever
Mhm.
I go and I see a show or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I was like trying to think of the best way that like could help the reader hear the music. And that was kind of how I did it was I would listen to music as I wrote the scene. And so
Mhm.
especially I have a Spotify playlist that's like the book in chronological order. And so
Mhm.
the around the point in the story where Avery and Charlie and the friend group go to the Noasis concert, I would listen to that little area in the Spotify playlist and just
Yeah.
on repeat. And so I was hearing the music that I wanted the reader to hear and just
Mhm.
trying to kind of put that together.
It's a really, really vibrant piece of writing that I just
Thank you.
I
That's a lot.
soon as I yeah, well, it's as soon as I finished reading that section, I went back and read it again because I was kind of like, I want to try and work out what was going on and how you did it, you know, and some of it, I mean, just so clever. I asked if you knew you were doing it because often when I write descriptive scenes, I'm not thinking the words like alliteration
Yeah.
or metaphor or assonance or all these techniques writers can use. But when I go back and look at it, then I'm kind of like, oh yes, I was doing a thing there. I was
Yeah.
doing a technique. I was being a writer.
Yeah.
But often it just comes out of you.
That was the only scene whenever I was like purposefully trying to deliver a specific like feeling and sound that I wanted the reader to have. But all
Yeah.
the other scenes where I'm like, oh, that was cool how like that descriptive moment or whatever, like how that did it. Everything else was like writing. And then, like you said, going back and realizing, like, oh, wait, I know how to author. I know how to do this thing. And so,
Yeah.
but that was the like one moment. I'm so glad you caught that because no one else has really like mentioned that. But like that
Yeah.
was the one moment when I was like, I really want to deliver the music to the reader.
Yeah, and you pulled it off 100%. So
Yeah.
well done. Um, oh, um, there's a scavenger hunt going on in your novel, and that was a really great way to structure the novel because it gave you different beats to hit.
Yeah.
Um, was the scavenger hunt, did it come out of nowhere, or do you know someone who set scavenger hunts, or
Because the whole thing is Avery's mom has done scavenger hunts for Avery since she was little. And
yeah,
I never like really grew up doing scavenger hunts with my family or anything. But how I said I grew up in San Diego, my school used to do like close little field trips down to the lakefront, like the waterfront, and there was this huge park there. And they would do scavenger hunts with just
right.
the little kids when I was like 6, 7 years old. And I just loved doing it. And I entirely forgot about it until I was working on the book. And I wanted something else to be going on besides the main romance plot. And I wanted something that could help tie Avery to her mom more and like learn about her parents and learn about her history. And also the thing with the scavenger hunt is it kind of like hits the beats as Avery goes along in the story. That sounds very vague, but it makes sense if you've read the book. Um,
Yeah, like,
and so I wanted something to kind of go along with it. And then for some reason, the little subconscious voice in my brain was like, "Hey, remember when you used to do those scavenger hunts when you were little?" And it was planning out the scavenger hunt was like because I'd never done that before. It was so it was so complicated and so confusing, but so much fun. And I now
yeah,
want to like plan a scavenger hunt with my friends because I loved it.
yeah. It was a really effective technique for taking the reader through the story, along with, of course, like all of your chapter headings are kind of rules. And of course, like the title is Rules for Fake Girlfriends, all of the chapter headings are rules observed in rom-coms
Yeah.
that
But
you
then
explain.
the chapter kind of contradicts it because and so early on in the book, one of the first chapter headings, I think it's the third or fourth chapter, is the heroine is broke but moves into a beautiful apartment. Something like that. And then in the chapter, it's Avery talking about how she got all this furniture to hide the mold and there's a leaky faucet and stuff because that is,
Yeah,
a college apartment or like a
yeah,
college dorm. It's not going to be this beautiful, like extravagant apartment. It's just going to be your basic, like, dorm. And so I like that's kind of how the story goes along, where it does kind of contradict it at points.
yeah, yeah, and it's really effective. Again, moving the reader through it. I mean, I just loved it. I have one final question for you, the most important question of all. Okay, if this were made into a movie, would anyone be allowed to play Avery except for you?
The one person who is not allowed to play Avery is myself.
Oh, spoil,
I
spoil.
I wrote it and I was like, so like the Summer I Turned Pretty, I'm assuming, and that whole all those
Mhm.
books. So Jenny Han, who's the author, isn't a main character or anything, but she does have like a small cameo where she plays there's one where she plays someone working at an airport. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like I like that you did like a little like sneak peek and you're like you're there, but like you're not a main character. And I'm not the kind of person that I feel like I would never write a book with a character because I wanted to play the character. I did write my book with characters that I wanted my friend to play because I want my friend to come to England with me if this gets turned into a movie. But so I did that for my friend. But if there's a character where like it's a side character and like it's a possibility that I could see myself in it, then I would consider it. But I do not see myself as Avery. I do not see myself as Charlie. Like none of them. I like the most I probably would ever do is like a funny little like me walk into a room as one of the college students and then leave, and that's it.
Right, kind of like Hitchcock always appeared in his movies, but he'd just be like a
He'd just be a little,
tiny
yeah,
for like 1 second. I kind of feel the same if my novel ever got turned into TV or a movie. I'd want to be like a crusty old professor in the background, and just like the camera pans across, and that
yep,
would be it.
that's exactly.
So there's actually another crazy coincidence that happened just today, where you suggested a cast list for my novel. Um, uh, so one of the people you suggested was the person to play Jel McCain, my rock star. And I have to tell you, a week ago, I had a phone call with someone who's interested in buying the option for my novel. And they asked me, is there anyone you'd really want to play any of the characters? And I said, there's only one character I really care about. And if you manage to make this happen, it would just make my life for me. It would be the happiest moment in my life. And I said to her, if you could get Gary Oldman to play my rock star, I would die
Yep.
a happy man. And that
He's
was your,
the only person that I can see, like reading it. It is very rare that I'll see an actor as a character when I am reading it. I will go back and think about it and be like, oh, this is this is what they could look like, or this is who could play them. Reading it, Gary Oldman was so like clear in my mind. And I was like, there's no one else who can play him. And so I'm
yeah,
so glad that we're like on the same wavelength here.
yeah, yeah. I was almost kind of like wondering if maybe like you, whether you use like listening devices on your authors before you, because I was like, but I thought it was Gary Oldman. And like you, I didn't think Gary Oldman when I was writing him at all. It wasn't until I was asked the question, I was like, maybe because I've been watching Slow Horses, and Gary Oldman in Slow Horses is kind of a bit like my rock star in that he's kind of like vulgar and disheveled and older, but there's something, even though he's vulgar, there's something charming.
Yeah. I it's like he is your rock he is the rock star, and that's like I'm so glad you agree.
Yes. I'm so glad you agree.
Yeah, I mean, shows the writing. If like you wrote it so well that I'm seeing the character you pictured.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, wait, but then I'm gonna reverse the question to you. Did you see anyone whenever you were reading mine? Did you see anyone as any of the characters? If not, that's fine.
Oh,
I don't
that's a
know what
really
my
good
main
question.
character
I got
was.
I got a very strong sense of them, but because I probably don't know many young British actors right now, I wasn't necessarily, I did have strong pictures of your characters. Um, oh, you know, although the mother doesn't appear very much, I just think Olivia Colman would be perfect.
I love Olivia Colman.
Oh, who doesn't love Olivia? If anyone doesn't love Olivia Colman, they don't have a heart.
Agreed with that. I agree with that. I love her. She just seems like the nicest woman.
Yeah.
I will say my for Esther, Charlie's mom, I had Emily Blunt in my brain.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was like the person how I said it's very rare that when I'm writing a book I can like picture the person. It was Emily Blunt that played the mom.
That sounds perfect.
I am glad you agree. And then you said for Halle, but my have you watched Family Stone by any chance?
No.
So if you look up Rachel McAdams and Family Stone, that's who was in my brain for Halle. Like a young Halle. Like that was the vision I had. But I love Olivia Colman now that you've said it. Now that you've
Yeah, although Olivia Colman could play anyone. I mean, I think Olivia Colman could play a boulder and still kind of be the star of the movie.
but you would love the Boulder more than
Yeah.
any of the other
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah, the boulder would steal every single scene.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The boulder wouldn't be in the scene, but you'd be like, but where's Where's Olivia?
Yeah. Why are we seeing more of the boulder?
Yeah, we need more bolder appearances, guys. Um, that's all my questions I had for you. If you have
Yeah,
any,
I got in all my questions for you as well.
man, amazing. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I loved your book so much. It was so amazing. It was so much fun. And if it's a movie, I can't wait to watch it because I love Gothic and I love just the vibe and being able to see it on a screen would be so cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for doing this. I had so much
Well,
fun.
thank you so much. Thank you. It was amazing, and I loved talking about your book as well as mine.
Thank you. Everyone, go get the Rabbit Club and a
Thank you.
little pose.
And rules for fake
Us,
girlfriends.
us too. Okay. Thank you so much.